Amen.
Amen.
So today, whether we recognize it or not, Jesus is celebrating Hanukkah. We often forget the Jewish roots of Jesus. Jesus is celebrating the Feast of the Dedication, which is Hanukkah, the 8-day festival of light celebrated in the winter, as the Gospel says it is. Menorahs, dreidels, all the things that we are used to, this is what Jesus is celebrating today. This celebration was about finding hope where there seemed to be none. It celebrated the rededication of the Jerusalem temple after it had been destroyed and desecrated by King Antiochus. It was and still is to this day a remembrance of the power of God to overcome in times that seem desperate and painful. It is also a remembrance of how God can speak to us in the most unexpected ways. This is what Jesus and his fellow Jews are celebrating today. So in the middle of this celebration of Hanukkah, Jesus has asked a question. Are you the Messiah? Tell us plainly. It's a question by the people around Jesus of desperation, made by people seeking hope. They want to know. They want assurances with no guesswork. They want black and white, the letter on the page, no interpretation, no seeking, no questions or uncertainty. Always and everywhere the same. Wouldn't it be nice if life worked that way? If everything was clear, we knew exactly what the answers were, where to go, when to go, how to be. Now the irony is that in the middle of the celebration of God's power to sustain light in the darkness, in time of remembering God's promise, these people can't see. So they wanted absolute, unquestioning, crystal clear certainty, but only in the way that they wanted. You see, they weren't speaking God's language. So Jesus tells them, the works that I do in my Father's name testify to me, but you don't believe, you don't see, because you don't belong to my sheep. They were being told clearly who Jesus was. But they wanted to hear it like children, like many of us do, in a simple yes or no. They wanted no ambiguity. They didn't want to have to look and discern and read the signs that God was giving them in abundance. Everything they hoped for and wanted and had been waiting for was right there in front of them. All of the answers were right there. They were looking, but they weren't seeing. We all do the same thing. We don't want to read the signs of the times. We want clarity. Tell me exactly when, exactly how, and exactly through whom. We don't like gray. We don't like ambiguity. But that isn't the language of God. See, God is an artist. Poet. And God speaks in the language of an artist, not a scientist. If there's anything wrong with science, so no offense to anyone who's a scientist out there, but that is not how God speaks. Science is black and white. It's mathematical. 2 is not 3, plus is not minus. There is one and only one answer to an equation. If you put two chemicals together in the same environment, they're going to react the same way each time, every time. It's easy. It's predictable. It's black and white. But God is the great artist. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have at some time had the opportunity to go to the great art museums in New York or elsewhere. If you go to the Met and you look, you understand that to understand the power of this art, you need to take your time. You will never understand Monet or Vermeer or Da Vinci if you look at their works for 30 seconds and expect all the beauty and subtlety and genius to be obviously to you immediately. The message of these works of art is that for those who take the time to see deeply, only those who take the time will understand the message. You have to wait and look and let the message come to you. See, God is not superficial. God is deeper than words on a page. Simple, quick answers for always and everywhere. If you want to know what God is saying in your life, it takes time. It takes the patience to look deeply, looking for signs and not for easy answers. And remember, you don't ever have to ask for signs, because they're already there. If you have to ask, or if you feel like you have to ask, then you aren't seeing what's already in front of you. Sometimes we get used to the language of the immediate and the measurable, the language of this world, business and goals and achievement and success and security. People around us, people in this country, people in our world are afraid, they're unsure, and they're all looking for hope. They're looking for answers that are easy and that feel good in a language that is clear and obvious and plain. Just like those around Jesus are looking for in the gospel. People look for absolute rules that fit every person in every situation all the time because they're easy. And we don't have to struggle with the gray. People want to believe that these people are always good. These people are always bad because of what they look like, because of where they come from. This way of being or doing or loving is wrong all the time. Because that's what I read somewhere. That's what I've been told. If I do this and this and this, then God will do exactly what I want God to do. It's not how God works. People are looking for answers, they're looking for hope in politics and politicians, in income and violence and exclusion and separation. But this is false hope. Because these things are not the voice of God, nor will they ever be the voice of God. And Jesus is saying to us what he is saying to those in the gospel. I'm already telling you exactly what you need to hear. Whatever your questions are, whatever your concerns are, whatever your doubts are, whatever path you need to find your way to, I'm telling you exactly what you need to hear and where you need to go. The answer is right in front of you. But maybe you're looking with the wrong eyes. You see, the measure of God's will for us is love. Is what I am doing and where I am going loving? Is my attitude towards this person, or this people, or this situation loving? Not condescending, or based on privilege, which simply means live like me, believe like me, love like me, and then you'll be okay. See, that's not love. Love is not fearful. I fear what I don't know and what is unfamiliar to me. God never calls to us and speaks to us in fear. The answer to the questions we are asking in our own personal struggles and journeys, answers we need are being given. But God's language can only be heard when we stop talking and start listening. When we surrender to the places that the Spirit wants us to go, as much as we resist, even if we are afraid. Even if we don't want to go there because it turns what we think we know on its head. Sometimes you know exactly it's the voice of the Spirit when it leads you to a place that is unfamiliar and unknown. And quite frankly, a little scary. Because that's often where God lives. God lives in the gray. God is in the unfamiliar. And if you fear the unfamiliar, you resist the unfamiliar, you won't find God. If you wait and listen in the gray, you will find exactly where God is leading you. Remember what he says in the Gospels. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, they follow me. My sheep hear my voice. I know them. They follow me. Before we can know the answer, before we can know where, before we can follow, we have to hear. Listen to what God is saying, because God is speaking to you. The Spirit has the exact answer that you are looking for, whatever your question is. Maybe you just can't hear it yet. In the first reading from Acts, Peter puts all the mourners outside of the room, and he kneels down and he prays. It was in prayer that Peter found life again. It is to silence and prayer that God leads us. So my brothers and sisters, on this day, please remember that whatever you are going through, whatever you are asking, whatever you are wondering about, whatever is frightening you or confusing you, remember that God is speaking all the time in many different ways. The problem is us. We're just not listening. Or we're listening for the answer that we want, not that God wants. In the busyness of our lives and all the things that we are going through, all the things that we are hearing, listen for the voice of the shepherd. Follow, listen, see, and God will give you the answer that you need. Amen.
Amen.
Let it be so.